Well, earlier this month, the Minnesota House voted on a plan that would restore voting rights for people with felony records once they are no longer behind bars. Current law says you can't vote until your sentence is complete, including probation and parole, and that can take years. Now, the Senate has not yet passed this bill, which is estimated to impact more than 50,000 Minnesotans. One of the people who wants this bill passed is Pastor Brian Herron. More than 2 decades ago, Herron was a Minneapolis city councilman. He resigned, pleading guilty to extortion from a grocery store owner. He ended up serving a year in jail. And Brian Herron is joining us right now. Thank you so much, Pastor Herron. And I think your story is remarkable, and the fact that you're sharing it is remarkable. But I do want to ask you, because for those who don't know Pastor Herron, we have him on the news a fair amount because he is at so many scenes in the community where there is violence and where there have been problems, more again today and over the weekend in St. Paul. Your thoughts?
First of all, our prayers are going out to the families of those children at Harding. We're a community of broken hearts. Lot of pain, lot of grief, lot of trauma. And then there's stuff going on where the children are learning this behavior. Yeah. And so there's a myriad of issues that contribute to the behavior. And one of the things that a lot of us who are doing this work are trying to do is also bring attention that we must take responsibility and do better and care more deeply for our children.
You've been saying that for a long time. I do want to talk to you about this felons voting rights, because you brought up a story, your own personal story, which is 20 years old now, and a lot of people may not remember it. Only the old reporters like me remember it. And people could have forgotten, but yet you're using this story as an example of why felons should get the vote right after they come out of jail. Tell us about that.
Well, I remember what it felt like when election time would come around. And as someone who was very much involved, it was very painful not to exercise my civic duty to vote. But I also know that when I was campaigning and when I was incarcerated, men had a sadness. And even when I worked with people coming out of incarceration, men and women, there was a sadness in their tone when they would talk about how they could not vote. I think we need to realize that most people are coming out of incarceration, and that if we want safe streets and safe communities, and it's been proven that pro-social activities help people not to reoffend. But even more than that, if we're going to be a just society, then we have to believe that people can be redeemed, and we have to have redemptive practices and not a continuum of punishment.
Critics of this proposal actually point to you as a success story. If Brian Herron can do it, get through the process, get his voting rights restored a few years after he got out of prison, why not everybody?
Because everybody's not me, and everybody can't pay their fines. And most people without community and family support often have difficulties with probation. And probationary sentences are often so long that it just becomes almost hopeless at times. That one of the things that I used to talk to men about when I was incarcerated, and when I work with men that are coming out of incarceration, is the idea that if I'm doing this work on the inside to better myself, but I'm not going to be treated any different on the outside, then what difference does it make for me to try to be better if people are going to hold me to the same thing?
Right. Well, another thing that critics, many of them Republicans, say is that the overwhelming percentage of felons who would come out of prison would vote for the Democratic candidates. I know you've heard that before.
Right.
What do you think of that?
That's their right. I mean, we're supposed to be a democracy, as broken as it is. We're supposed to be a democracy, and these are taxpayers. Most of these folk have jobs. Some of them own homes. They pay taxes. So now we got taxation without representation because they're limited in their ability to participate in electing someone to office to represent them.
Okay. What do you think it's going to do in the Senate? Do you think they've got the votes in the Senate?
I'm praying that it will pass in the Senate.
Okay. Well, Pastor Brian Herron, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. And I think it's so commendable that you're sharing a story that maybe a lot of people have kind of forgotten or put on the back burner.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Thank you, Esme.
Okay.
It's so good to see you.
Yes. All right.